What's happening, people? Back with another reaction, back with some more Strung Out. And we're going back to Twisted by Design, 1998. An album that, is coming back to me slightly, just certain moments and certain tunes. Overall, it's still remarkably unknown to someone who did own it back in the day, apart from a couple tunes. But yeah, ultimately, there have been a couple moments, including in the last tune, where I recognize some of the guitar work is like, wait, I do remember listening to this in my car. I have like weirdly specific memories. Like, I'll remember, like, I'll hear something or someone will mention something, and I'll like flash to like a very particular set of circumstances where I heard something or where I was in the place that someone's talking about. And there's just a couple moments where that's happened where it's like, oh, I do remember listening to this. I have like an oddly specific memory of, driving in this place while this was playing. So that may continue to happen. Nevertheless, King Alvarez is not a title that comes back to me. I'm not familiar with a monarch with that surname, so I'm sure there is. Like, no doubt, in a Spanish-speaking country somewhere, there's been a monarch, or someone who has claimed to be a king anyway, with that surname. Nevertheless, I don't know if this will be in reference to something or someone in actual history or culture, or whether this will be a narrative, or perhaps, someone who does exist, but in the world of the guys in Strung Out, rather than, someone who's actually a head of state. Nevertheless, let's find out what it is, and then, as I said, whatever I catch during the listen, we'll do a quick lyric check afterward. This is Strung Out. The track is King Alvarez, and it's from their 1998 album, Twisted by Design. To survive. Feel it coming, but even so. Howling guitar work. That's a tune. And yeah, I don't know, maybe I picked up on what's happening. I will say, it's not a tune that came back to me sonically, but it's a tune that, even if you gave me an instrumental version of this without the vocals, I feel like I could accurately say, like, that's a Strung Out tune. Like, that, I know their sonics enough, or at least some of their sonics, at this stage in the journey, which is to say, I have no idea what comes after this, but yeah, ultimately, it's characteristic of their sound. Like, it's got that energy, it's got some wicked guitar work, it's got those stop-start moments. So yeah, ultimately, sonically, very much in their wheelhouse. Lyrically, if I'm hearing this right, and I'll be curious to check this in a moment, but it sounds like maybe someone that the singer knows or knew from times before, but fallen through the cracks of society and now is essentially a person with mental illness, shouting at random people on the street or just shouting to himself. And, I feel like many people, if you live in bigger cities, you tend to see these things more. And, that's someone's family member. That's, people know that person. They grew up, they went to school with people, were friends with people and so on. And then for some people, for various reasons, and, often with complicated public-private mixtures of, causality, they can end up in tough places doing things where it's like, man, it's like hard to see, but, on some level, it's not always easy to intervene or to do anything about it. But ultimately, it sounds a bit more complicated because it's talking about like the kingdom of Alvarez, like here in the kingdom. So I feel like there might be some sense that like, even if it seems painful or tragic, like in Alvarez's mind, he's a king. Like this is his kingdom. So I feel like there's maybe, it's not altogether like a lament or talking about social ills without, any perspective from Alvarez himself. So not quite sure, but that's what felt like it came across. Let's confirm and or deny with a quick check. I guess it's because I'm always scared that I'm going to see too much if I try to open the lyrics in advance. Yes, that is what I want. Okay, so Gray Skyman is talking to the sidewalk once again. Your perfect vision of the world, it goes unheard. As the rain falls down on your head, it slips inside the cracks of another fruitless day here in the land of King Alvarez. You're losing once again. It's getting harder to survive when the world that's all around you just don't seem to care. And the universe you've built for yourself is caving in right on you. And the streets are getting colder than they used to be these days, and now I see you walking down the boulevard alone and you're screaming at the top of your lungs all night, and I wonder to myself, how did you get to be this king without a throne? That's a really good line. It's another sunny day here in the land of Babylon. I thought that's what I wasn't sure if I was hearing Babylon because you sort of extended the vocal, but yeah. It's another sunny day here in the land of Babylon, to see the things that no one sees, to hear the lie that no one tells. It's getting lonely in this place, getting tired of it all. I wonder to myself how many times he's cracked inside, screaming at the top of your lungs, and now the voices in your head keep getting louder. With the passing of each day, it's getting harder to go on. I don't know what you don't know. You wouldn't play that game the same. You wouldn't play that game at all. As the rain falls down on your head, it slips inside the cracks of another fruitless day here in the land of Alvarez. Yeah, I mean, it sounds essentially like what I was thinking, and maybe a bit more along the lines of, it's tragic to see, and there's nothing you can really do about it, and it's as he goes on, it's getting harder and harder to even live in that way. But yeah, ultimately, it sounds like he's still screaming at the top of his lungs, which suggests, he hasn't succumbed to the elements or physical illness to a degree where, he's on the verge of death. But yeah, I mean, it sounds like more or less the outline that I was thinking, that someone who, through society's difficulties and through the way that it just seems like things are more expensive, it's harder to find a place to live in the first place, and there's all sorts of factors that go into individual circumstances that lead people to the street. But in many cases, people end up there in part based on either mental illness or addiction and so on. And once you pass a certain threshold, it's like there's this disconnect where it's, people are like, oh, that's, like a homeless person who looks like he's been living out here a long time, and, either they avert their eyes or maybe some people try to intervene, but in some cases they might just, just get out of here. So, yeah, it's a really tough situation, and I feel like it's a song that sort of speaks to that, because it's saying, like, it's harder and harder to live, but then, like, people, who see people in that condition, a lot of them, it's like, well, that's just, it is what it is. And that's it. So, the line about, people seem like they don't really care, yeah, it feels like that's all too real. But you know, again, I would be among the first to say there's no easy solutions to that situation. I feel like there's so many complicating factors, and ultimately, I think individual cases tend to be very different from each other. So to try to make some sweeping policy that's like, well, that's what we do in all cases, but I'm not sure that's the way. So yeah, it's a tough topic, but shout out to Strung Out. I mentioned before, punk bands, sometimes they get accused of being doomy, which is a word I heard in a different musical context recently, and I very much enjoy. But yeah, they get accused of like, oh, you just always sing about problems and you always sing about things that you don't like and so on. And it's like, that's not really true. There are songs, even by the most scathing of political punk bands, that tend to talk about personal issues, or even romance or the feelings of love and so on. But when they do those sort of scathing critiques of society and politics and so on, it's often as a way to, we got to fix this, we got to figure out something. So drawing attention to homelessness and mental illness, it's an admirable approach to an issue that, again, it's a tough nut to solve. So anyway, I'll stop wasting your time, but do let me know what you think of this tune. The next time we come back, we'll be asking for the world, which seems like a big ask. But depending on who you consult, I suppose your chances may be better or worse of attaining at least a large percentage of that. In any case, let me know what you think. I'll see you next time. Peace.